How you doing? Good day. This is Brother Green with Rivers in the Desert Ministry, the profitable online ministry, and I want to compile a series of some of the. I've been fortunate. I've always been an entrepreneur. Some of the ways that um, over the years I've used to generate money. And today we're going to talk about after construction cleanup. After construction cleanup is a very easy business to get into, and one could make anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 or more per month. And I started out years ago. And I'll cover in some other videos some of the things that I've done that I've been able to do very successfully. But we're going to focus on after construction cleanup today. After construction cleanup is a very niche market, but at the same time, it's an easy market to get into. The only thing you need to get into the business really is a mop, a bucket. You need some rags. You need a vacuum. When I first started, I didn't own a vacuum, so I went to Aztec Rental, one of the rental places, and I rented a vacuum. Vacuums are pretty easy to rent, and they're pretty cheap. And you need a bucket for window cleaner solution and squeegee. You need an open end razor, and the razor is used to scrape paint off of windows, and a bottle of this Gooby gun. And then I used a lot of times I use Dawn as far as window cleaner, and I would use non-abrasive cleansers pretty much to clean. But like I said, the industry is real easy to get into. What you do, first of all, you go looking around town. What I did is I would look around town after for business, and what you do is you look for construction projects that are not complete. And you have to learn the hierarchy of the industry and the language of the industry, and it'll come to you. The first thing is that generally what you want to do when you get to a site is you want to speak to the site superintendent. Okay, the site superintendent is the individual that's placed to oversee all the work that goes on the site. Now, to actually submit your bid, you will need to talk to the project manager. So you go to the site superintendent, though, and he's your contact to the project manager usually. And what you do is you just ask him, so, I'm with such and such cleaning industry. You get you a DBA, it costs about $10. And I'm with ABC Cleaning Company, that's the name of your company. And Triad happened to be the name of mine, which was the River in the Desert, which ultimately is the ministry and everything else I've been associated with. But you talk to uh, the site superintendent, and you say, hey, I'm with XYZ Cleaning Company. We specialize in after construction cleanup, and we do floors, we do windows, we do carpentry, we do walls, and we do surfaces. We do bathrooms, and that's basically what you're bidding on. That's the work you're bidding on. And I wanted to know if you're taking contracts, if you're taking bids for this contract, and or when are you going to be open for bids? That's your opening to the site superintendent. And he says, yeah, we're going to be taking bids. The bids are going to be starting and he'll tell you when they're going to be starting bids and when they're going to close out. Then the next thing you say, well, do you have some plans that I can look at? Oh, also, you're going to, on most of the construction sites, you're going to need to get you a cheap hard hat in order to go out and and walk the site. And you're going to have to act like you know what you're doing until you actually know what you're doing. But believe me, it didn't take that many times of acting like I knew what I was doing before I actually knew what I was doing. The If anybody else is doing it, you can learn it. It's not that difficult. We're not building rocket ships, believe me. So then anyway, you say, well, can I look at your plans? And then they'll say, yeah, the plans are over there on the counter. And main thing what you're looking at when you look at the plans is you're going to look at the elevation, the square footage, the number of bathrooms, things like that is what you're looking for, because you're really going to come up with your estimate from walking the building or the complex or whatever. Start out small. My first project that I started with was an IHOP. And I did the IHOP. I went in there and I asked him when he's going to be accepting bids on it. And he told me it was about a month away. I put in bids on it. I bid at $800. And what I do generally in order to price these projects, like I say, start small and you'll get a feel for what it's going to take. But I walk the project and I calculate how long will it take me to do this work by myself. And then I translate that number into man hours, and then you translate that number into laborers. For instance, like I walk the IHOP, and I figured that it's going to take me, for this bathroom, to clean this bathroom is going to take me 4 hours, and it's got 2 bathrooms, so that's 8 hours. Okay, and then I looked at the kitchen, and I figured the kitchen, to clean this kitchen is going to take me 4 hours. Okay, so I'm up to 12 hours. Okay, and then I look at the dining area, and I say, oh my goodness, this dining room is going to take me at least a day to clean it. So I'm at 24 hours plus 12, and I'm doing this stuff in my head, and you got to be able to do this in your head when you go out there. So 24 plus 12, 36 hours is where I'm at. Okay, so then I go to and I look at the windows, and I see that the windows is going to take me. Let's say the windows are going to take me the at least 10 hours to get done. Okay, so I'm at 46 hours. Okay, so 46 hours, and is what it's gonna take. So I'm gonna bring in 4 people. Or let's say I'm gonna bring in 5 people. So that means 7 hours. I can roughly 7 hours, a little bit over 7 hours, and I can get this job done. Okay, so now the way I want to price this is I want to price this, a total of 46 hours, and I want to price this 46 times 20. So let's say just for even numbers, 40 times 20. So that's 800 bucks. Okay, so I can go in there with this job, and I can take 5 people, and I can price, and actually I priced this job, my first job, at $900, and I can take 5 people in there at $900, and I can pay $10 a person, and I've got $10. I can pay $10 an hour per person, and I've got $10 profit per person to cover for supplies in my time. And it turned out to be a really good job. I finished the job in one day, and I took my family in with me, and we were able to complete the job in one day, and we made $900. Now the next job, I did a medical facility, and I priced that, and the next job was less than a week away that I found, and I priced that job at $1,500. It took me 3 days to do that job. The following job I priced at, that was 10,000 square feet, by the way. It was way underpriced. But I priced a school in the A-Leaf area, 2,600 bucks, and I took 8 laborers in there with me. And when it was all said and done, I profited $1,200. I did Border Books, Planet Music, and I priced that job low. You got to really be careful, okay, when you're dealing with the site superintendent and the project manager. I really got burned on that job. I priced that job at $5,000, but the project manager kept calling me out for work. And when you go into these larger jobs, one of the things that you can do if it's not a lot of extensive work, generally on the larger jobs, what I would do is I would go in and I'd start out at 8 cents, 9 cents per square foot. And then, depending on the competition, I'd end up somewhere between 5 and 7 cents a square foot. But you want to go in there, you want to go as high as you can. You want to price it per square foot, because, if you try to walk that job and figure out based on man hours, you're just going to get burned. But you want to price it per square foot, and then you want to factor in anything special that needs to be done. Okay. And a good starting price for today's market is going to be 8 cents, 9 cents a square foot. And then you're going to have to come down from there. Okay. The border books, though, I really got burned on that job because the site superintendent kept calling me out for work, and I said, well, this is going to cost this is going to cost that, and I negotiated with the site superintendent for the extra fees, and it was never approved by the project manager. Now, the hierarchy of this industry is that the site superintendent has one or maybe two projects, but the project manager above the site superintendent, he's the one that's in charge of the budget. He's the one that you really need to know and you really need to communicate with as far as the specifics of the job, because he's going to have 8, 9, 10 jobs or more that he's working on, and that job, the site where you're at, is just one of them. Okay, so things can get lost in the shuffle. And the after construction cleanup individual, you got to keep in mind you're at the low end of the totem pole. So, when things are not right, it's the person that's the low end of the totem pole that gets blamed. So many times you're going to have to hold the hands of the construction company when they are turning over the project to the actual owner, to the client. And this means that you're going to be called out at the last minute to do certain things, called out at the last minute to just wipe and to press and to mop and to touch up the areas. And on the larger projects, what you want to do, because eventually we got into schools. But on the larger projects, you want to get the project manager to sign off on sections at a time, so that you don't have to go back and do rework. That will really knock a hole in your budget if you have to continually go back and rework on these projects. But anyway, I did really good with after construction cleanup. I made a ton of money. It was a lot of fun, and it's easy to do. You start out small, and you work your way up into the larger projects. When it was all said and done, I was doing large schools, over schools that are over 400,000 or 500,000 square feet, and they were really fun to do. Like I said, you go in there and you look at the number of bathrooms, you price it, you look at the plans, you act like you know what you're doing, but at the same time, you already know what you're going to do. You're going to price these things at a certain anywhere from 8, 9 cents per square foot. Okay. And as I mentioned, you make friends with these guys. I'm going to be putting up another video on negotiating tactics that you can use. You need to know how to negotiate. It's not like I mentioned, you're not building rocket ships, but it's good to know how to negotiate. For instance, on one of the projects, I went in and I charged $800. It was a new restaurant that was coming into Houston, and you get into these chains sometimes, and you can eat off of these chains for a while. Because you do a good job, they'll have you clean this one. They'll tell you where their next project is. They'll have you clean that one. And but as I mentioned, always negotiate your prices with the project manager and make sure he approves them, because I was up to about $9,000 in work that I had done at this one project. Border Books Planet Music, that it came into town, and then when it was time to get paid, they told me that I only had $5,000 approved from the project manager, and that really, when I was looking forward to about $9 grand from that deal, that set me behind. But fortunately, at the same time, I was working in a school, and I had charged this school, we had charged them about $2,800 for the job, and it was really only about $400 worth of work. So you go long on some and you go short on the others to make up for it. But you have to keep on working, and you have to keep on having jobs coming in. It takes a little while to get the pump primed, but once you get the pump primed, there's plenty of work out there for you. Right now, this is a real strong time. If you're in one of the larger cities, this is a good time for construction and commercial real estate, and you should be able to make tons of money in after construction cleanup. There's a lot of money to be made in this industry, and I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions, I'll put up my contact information, and feel free to contact me with questions, and I'll be able to help you out. Okay, have a great day. God bless.